Crossover Radio, Crossover Sports. You're listening to Excessive Celebration. Scott Owens with Billy Bell. Billy, talking a little bit about the college sports scene. I found a couple of interesting lists I think would be fun to talk about as we jump into and celebrate college football opening weekend. We had week 0 last week. That's still, I don't understand that. But if it's the first week of the season, why not just call it week 1 and push everything back? But
I don't know. I was very confused by that whole thing. You had like 6 announcers. This is week 0. No, I'm pretty sure they just played a game. That's week 1.
Should be week 1. They do that in high school too. They, some reason, they moved stuff around. I think it has to do with in high school with just how much time they can spend and schedule. And all that.
We lost on week 0, but went undefeated after that.
That's right. That's right. So do we rarely ever lose?
Technically, it's we're gonna hang a national championship banner.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm finding interesting, Bill, is it seems like there's these first couple of games I've seen, the Florida game, everybody mentioned how ugly it was, and we saw a lot of penalties and those type things, and everybody always chalks it up to, it's the first game of the year, right? And I get that. I think the sport has been hurt by the NCAA stepping in and saying, you can only have 20 hours of practice, you can only hit this many times, you can only do this, you can only do that. And frankly, I think it affects the product on the field.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's not a job. So to say these kids have to work 40 hours a week and only on football is going to be tough.
Yeah.
Now, do these kids still get together? Yeah, they do. They get together. They have camps. They have, just a Saturday or a Sunday where they go out and throw the ball around when the coaches aren't around and stuff. I'm sure there's still ways to get around that, especially the teams that are your Alabamas, your Clemsons, that are really driven on winning.
But I guess my point is you can do all of that, and a quarterback can see where his check downs go, all of those type things. But the real issue is penalties, jumping off sides, those kind of things I think are hard to manage outside of.
And you could probably say that's what killed BYU last night is they were hanging with Utah for most of the game. And even just emotionally wise, they were hanging with Utah even when they were down. The quarterback for BYU looked amazing, and give him a year, he's going to be a stud.
Right.
But whether it be the mesh point when handing off to the running back, dropping the ball 2 or 3 times a game, the end of the Miami game where it just seemed like there was a penalty or somebody would fumble or whatever the case. I mean, those are training aspects that look like they didn't get sewed up before the season started.
Right.
But let's be honest, the week doesn't start till week 1, so I don't blame them for fumbling on week 0.
Right. Well, interesting. I mentioned a couple of lists here. One that is really interesting to me, Bill, is the ESPN preseason All-American team. And we don't have to go through the whole list, but I think it's pretty clear that there are some players that have separated themselves from others per position. And so I give you a little taste of this. Fairly heavily influenced by the SEC, believe it or not.
No.
The quarterback, for example, is not an SEC player. It's Trevor Lawrence, and I think that's fair. Running backs are...
I don't know. Did they see him in week 0?
I don't know. I don't know if they caught him in or not. But you got Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, Jonathan Taylor and Travis Etienne.
Yeah.
Wow. He looked good.
Etienne, what was it, 200-some-odd yards, 3 touchdowns?
Yeah, he looked good. Your 2 wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy of Alabama and Tylan Wallace of Oklahoma State. I mean, there's a case to make for 3 or 4 different players out there. But
okay, so Judy's a good player, but is Jeudy overrated because of Alabama and what they've put out before? Because there's been a lot of guys from, it seems, Alabama, especially at the wide receiver spot, that get a lot more hype and pub than some of the other wide receivers around the league or around the nation. Does he fit that mold, or is he a legitimate one of the
Yeah, I think
best
he
wide
does.
receivers.
No, I think he does.
Okay.
Kind of in the mold of a Julio Jones or somebody like that. I mean, he's big, he's fast, he runs good routes.
Because I could make a case for whenever you had, like, say, Calvin Ridley,
Yeah.
and even Julio Jones at the time, that a guy like Hunter Renfro was a better wide receiver than they were. But
the
the
name
name,
carries.
doesn't have the same cachet.
Yeah, that's true. Who was the guy? Ross? Who's the guy that was at Clemson? The other wide receiver though that I never can remember.
Williams?
Yeah, Williams.
Mike Williams,
Yes. Yeah, I thought he was as good as anybody else that was out there.
He was. There was a couple of big plays, and you know what? I always thought he would be great in the NFL. In his first year, second year we'll find out. But it's Mike Williams that it could be another one of those cases of all the talent in the world, but maybe doesn't translate to the NFL.
Right. Offensive line is Georgia. Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma, the center. Another guard, Lemieux from Oregon. Walker Little from Stanford. Defensive end, Ohio State's Chase Young. Derek Brown from Auburn. And then you've got Xavier Thomas, also from Clemson. Chason from LSU at linebacker is a scary human being. Dylan Moses at Alabama as well.
How about Moses going down for the year?
Yeah,
that's sad to
that
see.
was tough. Yeah, Grant Delpit from LSU. Boy, they always have good defensive backs, don't they? LSU just seems to crank them out. Xavier McKinney, Alabama, another guy. Bryce Hall from Virginia. C.J. Henderson from Florida. Don't know much about those guys. Interesting list, Bill. And then another interesting list that we have is the 2010. They actually have picked the best players, and I think it was The Athletic put together their all 2010s team, so all the players that played in the 2010s. And it's a very interesting list, and it has a little bit of a local flavor on the offensive side, Bill. The all-time quarterback for the 2010 decade is Baker Mayfield. The running back is Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey. Your wide receivers, Marquise Lee from USC and Justin Blackmon from Oklahoma State. Tight end Evan Ingram. I don't even remember him, but I think I remember him tearing up OSU in the Cotton Bowl. And then he may have been one of 30 players that was declared ineligible.
That's that guy on my fantasy team every year that does not contribute.
Defensive line, I think this guy's been a letdown. Jadeveon Clowney, in the pros anyway. He was a monster, but he's been hurt quite a bit at Houston, hasn't he, Bill?
So what I don't understand about Clowney is he's asking for all this money. He wants to be ranked as a top tier guy on defensive end or linebacker. He's rated as a linebacker, but it's that situation of, is he a wide receiver? Is he a tight end? Is he a running back kind of thing? So Clowney, when you look up his stats, are, I would say, not impressive. I mean, the number of tackles that he helps out on, the number of sacks alone in his, 6 years now, or going into his 6th year, are not what J.J. Watt was putting up to demand or ask for that money.
So your defensive lineman, and besides Clowney, is Aaron Donald from Pitt, Myles Garrett at A&M, and Bosa from Ohio State, Joey Bosa. Linebackers, C.J. Mosley, Luke Kuechly, Boston College, that's a pretty good pick, and then Manti Te'o from Notre Dame. What do you think?
Trying to think of it. So Sue was not in there anywhere?
No, but I don't know, Bill. Was he a little earlier than that?
He might have been, but that lineup's pretty solid. I mean, it's hard to argue with any of them.
Yeah, and then you get to the DBs. You got Adoree Jackson, USC, Minka Fitzpatrick, Alabama.
Yeah.
Honey Badger, Matthew from LSU, and then Jalen Ramsey from Florida State. That's a pretty good group of kids to line up against right there.
I will sign them all to a team, and I guarantee we win a Super Bowl.
Right. And speaking of a good group of kids, we're going to be back with our next segment and bring in Sky for Sky Q. He's going to make his picks for the year. We'll see how he stacks up to the experts, Billy and I, terms of his
Is he
picks.
ready? Is he ready?
I don't know. We'll find out.
He stays ready.
Ready. It's what Mike Little used to say, and everybody had to get in the ready position. And if you didn't,
Now-
you wish you would have.
Nowadays, you know what it is?
Tell me.
Can't do that anymore.
No.
Can't do it. The Cardinals are throwing everybody off with their hand clapping.
Well, and it's not even to the tune Baby Shark either. So, crossover radio.
Radio with a purpose. You're listening to Excessive Celebration. Get that app.